All right, let's get into that conversation. Where are the learners? And joining me now is Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa, Executive Director of SAWA Agenda. Janet Muthoni Ouko is here, former Education CECM Nairobi, and Professor Collins Odote, member Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms. And Dr. Manyasa, I'll start with you on this. We have NGCDF, which received 10 billion just the other day. NGAF received 1.5 billion just the other day. Governor's bursary, private scholarships, plus free-day secondary school education. How come we still have students staying at home for lack of fees?
Thank you for having me. I don't know why the idea that we still have children at home is appearing to surprise people. It can't be surprising us because we know that the principals have insisted on zero fee balance for you to be admitted to school. So the bursaries that went out, first of all, could not reach everyone. The second is that they were not even issued following a very objective criteria. And third, for the fact that the principals are not allowing children into school with even the smallest of fee balances, then majority of the children who didn't get bursaries are just unable to get into school. So that is, for me, in a nutshell, the reason why we still have so many children out of school.
Yeah.
But also to be fair to the current government, all along we have never had 100% transition. We have always effect claims of 100% transition, but the highest level we have reached is in the 80s, never even 90s.
All right, let me bring in Janet on this. Janet, is that where the problem is, the criteria of giving bursaries and the principal simply refusing to allow students to come in without fees?
First and foremost is to say that the issue of bursaries that we have seen going around is that there are two issues here. There are bursaries by private institutions, such as what we see in Equity, the KCB, and then there are government bursaries. And the question is, we have seen the principals frantically telling government that you have given us very meager resources. And I'm aware the capitation that was given for first term, it's about 33% of the 50% that is supposed to be shared in first term. Yeah. And that still 33% does not cater for Form 1. So as we are having this conversation, it is clear that the government of Kenya has not sent 1 shilling to the 900,000 Form 1s that are expected in schools. I'm very shocked that I'm seeing a PS walking around mopping out children. To go where? And you have not sent money to schools. The government of Kenya has not sent 1 shilling to the Form 1s. They sent money the other day, and then they said, because we do not have data for the Form 1s that have reported, we will not send money until we are clear from the NEMIS data. They have not sent money for Form 1s. I ask them, why are you inciting Kenyans against principals of schools? If you have not sent money to schools, how are you expecting principals to feed your children, to keep them in schools when you have not sent money? So I think at some point we really want to demand accountability from the government, and we want to demand honesty from government. This conversation is not about 100% transition. It's about where are the resources? The question of where the children are, it is very obvious, Trevor. The children are at home.
Okay.
Yeah, they are at home. They have not gone to school. And why? Because the principals will not allow you to school without money. It is logic.
Yeah.
You will want food. You will want electricity. You will want water. So how about that? Would you want principals to be fetching money from their own salaries to be taking care of people's children? And the answer is no. So the biggest issue here is not even the bursaries that you see flying all over the place. Yeah. At what point did we get every arm of government having some little money here and there? And the same government is not meeting its obligation in capitation. Why can't we amalgamate all that and send that money through a trusted model that is called a capitation grant, where you don't have to queue, you don't have to beg a member of parliament, because as it stands now, bursaries is equal to selling someone's right, because bursary is not free. Bursary is for the vote. So it's sort of we are selling the right to education in exchange for a voting favor. So, and we lose it completely.
Okay, Prof, what are we missing here? How come we still have students at home?
Thanks, Trevor. I think when I was at the Presidential Working Party on Education report, this issue of bursaries was one that we really debated a lot. And if you look at the recommendations, the reality is several-fold. I think the first one, which is more critical, just a little bit of where Janet has ended, we have too many disparate players in the bursaries sector. Too many. I think if you looked at the school, children are going to school, I was just reading the newspapers, and you find that a child is applying to 6 bursary sources, and you're waiting for the other. At the end,
and sometimes they miss all of them.
Invariably, you end up then missing all of them. And I think one of the things that we must do is to be able to find a way by which we coordinate this, so that we are able to know how much money do we have in totality in terms of bursaries, how many kids are poor who actually deserve it. Then you can be able to have the debate about did the amount we have become sufficient. As at now, you don't know, because you don't even know who gave who did not give the other. So for me, I think the fundamental issue is the issues about the amounts that we get and how we distribute. That's issue number one. Issue number two that's critical is in terms of what the actual costs of education. I think if you read today's newspapers, you'll hear parents saying, I raised 30,000 shillings and deposited in an account. Then I discovered that that was required for uniform. Now I need money for school fees. So I think for us to just be able to have a candid conversation and say, by the way, for us to be able to sustain a child, this is how much it requires, these are the kind of things that we are doing. It's because of that there are people who have been discussing that, you know, even for uniform, how do we deal with it? How do we ensure it is not a burden? Because if you recognize in certain schools, it is not even the fees that keeps the child away. It is the amount of money that's required for this extra levies in terms of I need to buy a school uniform, I need to buy this, I need to buy the other. If you're taking a child in Form 1 to a public primary school, you'll spend around 40,000 on these other things and only 20,000 on the school fees. So therefore, that becomes a critical issue. I think the third is in terms of the amount of information that we give to our parents. You recognize that we talk about kids who have missed the application for bursaries, but there's also quite a number of kids in the rural villages who even have no idea that they should be applying for a bursary. So you are sitting down, you are poor, you don't even know what to do, you are extremely helpless. Therefore, things that we need to deal with. I think the last one for me is I think the efforts that are being made currently now by the PS and by government agencies to trace kids is a useful effort. But I think we should be able to do it much early. I think we should be able to find a mechanism by which we are able to identify the poor kids and know about in advance. Because if we try to now only do it when it is 3 weeks after kids have gone to school, I think we are following after the problem and not being proactive.
Dr. Manyasa, is the solution consolidating all these funds, and who should run these funds? Because ideally the government should know during the transition from primary school to secondary school, they should know how many students are desperate, how many of them need some kind of bursary. Is the solution in consolidating all these bursaries?
Actually, the memorandum that we submitted to the Presidential Working Party recommended that, to one, we consolidate all the bursary funds because there are too many.
All right, I apologize for that slight technical hitch. I see there's an issue there. We're going to get back to him in just a
minute. I think I can hear you. Can you see me back?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. So we recommended that we consolidate those bursary funds to avoid them being used to buy political support as they are currently being used by especially political players. That's why you've seen people saying if your father didn't vote in this constituency or in this ward, you don't qualify for a bursary fund. And that is very unfair. So one, consolidate. But two, create a national structure. I would want to see that all the bursary funds in the country were 10 billion for this year. If we have 10 billion, I would want to see that Nairobi, for example, was given 500 million. And if Nairobi was given 500 million, I want to see that Westland's constituency was given, say, 10 million. And then each ward in that constituency, I want to see how much money it was given. We can create that structure that devolves the funds through a national bursary scheme up to the ward level. Let the ward have a committee that vets the applicants, that knows the children and can visit their homes. And then when they have awarded whatever they were given, if they were given 2 million or 3 million at the ward level, they can then be able to tell us, we were given 3 million, we gave this 3 million to these 100 kids who are so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so attending schools A, B, C, D. Transparency. And we'll be able to attract very many other players who are willing to support education of Kenyan children. The problem is that the actors don't want that transparency. They all want to abuse bursary schemes. For the government bursary scheme, there are stories all over of how some big people went to the counties with lists and said these are the children who will be given. In the constituencies, in the counties, there are abuses. We had last year the Auditor General saying some counties that I don't want to name had ghost students who had benefited from the bursaries and monies had been stolen. So actors don't want transparency because they want to steal and they want to let Kenyan children suffer. Yet there is almost sufficient, it's not sufficient, but almost sufficient amount of money in the bursary schemes around the country to support most of the needy children. Let us create a national structure devolved to the ward and with the demand that the ward publishes the names of the beneficiaries and the schools were there and the amount that they have received. Because the other problem with centralization and nationalization is that players at the higher level will want to allocate their home constituencies 50% of what is supposed to be allocated to the whole country.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Manyasa, stay with me on this. Janet Muthoni Ouko, I see you have something to say. Stay with me. Professor Collins Odote, we're back in just a bit on this conversation. There's even a more radical proposal by a report by Professor Douglas of the Ambo Task Force on aligning education to the Kenya Vision 2030 and the Constitution of Kenya 2010, which was done in 2011 to 2013. They proposed abolishing boarding school altogether so that every school next to you is a day school and the children are sent there instead of the distance that some of them have to cover. And I see Dr. Manyasa refuses on that.